welcome to Weekends with Whitney. Coming up on this morning's show, inspiring story of a 9-year-old boy who, by saving his change, is changing the way new moms and their babies in the neonatal intensive care unit connect. Proof we can change the world at any age. Plus, preserving the past for our future. How award-winning author Ernest and his wife Diane are honoring lives lost and nearly forgotten since the days of slavery. And how this church, almost 100 years old and often written about in Gaines' books, is being saved for future generations. Also, a generation grew up with I Dream of Genie, while I sit down with stars Barbara Eden and Bill Daly, where life has taken both of them since the hit show, and how even in their 80s, they're still going strong. And DR.NICK. Why are we often our biggest critic and harder on ourselves than anyone else? More importantly, how do we reframe it and become more gentle with ourselves? Some great ideas with DR.NICK. But we begin with pocket change, how one boy's change is changing lives. Mommy! 9-year-old Joey Roth is about to impact the lives of two strangers here at Woman's Hospital. First-time mom Keegan Willis-Hayes and her newborn baby boy, Raphael. The first time she sees her little boy breathe will be because of this little boy. It all started 2 years ago when Joey was at Jacob's summer camp in Utica, Mississippi. He brought home the importance of charity.
I was born here, and it started because I kept finding change everywhere I went, and so I decided I would use it for a place and people who needed our help more than others. So I decided to give it to Women's Hospital and the sick babies there because they have some really special needs.
As change was piling up in his jar, he was jarred by another idea. Jars for change. He'd take jars to schools and businesses so others could help bring about change too.
It came up more than I thought. I thought it would end at like 100 and never keep going. It would just stop there.
Instead, it grew to $10,000, and Joey Time was born. Using iPads, moms like Keegan can now see, hear, and talk to their babies in the neonatal ICU.
Hey, mommy, baby. Hey, can you hear me? If it wasn't for him, I still wouldn't have seen my baby. I got to see him breathing and everything.
Keegan herself is in adult ICU after emergency surgery when doctors had to take her son 6 weeks early. She never got to see him before he was rushed into NICU.
I woke up at 2:30 this morning. I was like, I got to see my baby. And I did not go to sleep until they brought me the iPad.
This is the first time Joey's gotten to see Joey Time in action.
Thank you so much. What made you want to do this?
Well, I thought of all the sick babies in Women's, and I was born here, and so I thought those sick babies over in the NICU they really need a lot of help. They have a lot of special needs.
It's a huge help, say nurses like Jeannie McAllister.
It's nice for the moms to be able to see their babies like breathing and responding to their voices and moving, in real time. And that it helps us also kind of explain what's going on and kind of our role in helping, the babies heal.
Jana knows it helps the babies too.
I feel like the babies have become a little more active when they hear their mother's voice.
It was exactly what Joey wanted to hear.
It was exciting because I've never seen Joey Time, and it's important to me because the mom never sees the baby. She never got to see him. She's never seen her baby except through Joey Time, and that means a lot to her and me.
Because of Joey's Jars for Change, he's now a national finalist for the Outstanding Young Philanthropist Award. It's a huge award with a big name.
All I knew was I was doing things. And so my mom said, well, you're now a philanthropist. And I'm like, what does that mean? what's a philanthropist? What is that? And she explained it all, and so now I know.
How does it feel?
I'm excited, I'm nervous, but really I feel like the cause and continuing Jar for Change means a lot more to me than the award itself.
I love you, Joey. Thank you so much.
Jar for Change is ongoing because Joey says he wants to buy even more iPads so that moms who have to be admitted to other hospitals can still get their Joey time with their babies at the NICU at Woman's Hospital. Now, if you'd like more information, check out Joey's face page, Jar for Change. And now from a jar to a bottle, a genie in a bottle. Barbara Eden. She starred in the 60s hit show sensation I Dream of Genie. I recently got to sit down with her and her co-star, Bill Daly, who played Major Healy. The show aired 50 years ago this year, and it is proof there is no putting a genie back in that bottle. She was one star, too steamy to stay bottled up. Barbara Eden is one of the greatest pop icons of the 20th century. I Dream of Genie ran on network TV 5 years, from 1965 to 1970. But it was an even bigger sensation in syndication, running for decades. Her fans now span 4 generations. At 83 years old, she's amazing. Are you surprised it's had the lifelong fan base that it has?
I am. I really am, but I'm very happy about it. I like her. She's easy to live with.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
How do you stay so beautiful?
Oh, you're kind.
Oh, really?
Kind.
I really need to know. I'm 48. I need to know.
No, just keep working. That's all.
For her co-star Bill Daly, who played Major Healy, the show was a wish come true.
She's famous because no one can play Jeannie. I mean, no one. But she just bubbled the charm and the cleanliness. We made it all up. And Sidney Sheldon was never there. He wrote them all and left. And of course, one of the greatest actors of all time is Larry Hagman doing JR.
Love it.
But we made it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. Well, I was always funny.
Yeah, I
Born
can
funny.
tell.
Oh,
You were
you're
born funny and you're
you
born
are.
happy.
Oh, happy.
I Dream of Genie is now airing in Europe, and it has a growing fan base. Now, if you'd like to watch it in the U.S., you'll have to catch it online, on cable, or buy the DVD. Coming up as Weekends with Whitney continues. How award-winning author Ernest Gaines and his wife Diane are saving this once-forgotten cemetery and church, and why. Plus, DR.NICK, why we're our own worst critic, and how to be more gentle with ourselves after this.
Maggio, the only way to go. Maggio Buick GMC, your satisfaction's our specialty. We really deliver on Falls River, here in New Roads. Small town atmosphere, legendary service for over 60 years. Maggio, the only way to go. The only way to go, that's Maggio.
Studio 7 is redefining how Pilates is offered to the Baton Rouge community with top-of-the-line equipment expert instructors, and classes offered every hour of the day till 8 p.m. at night. And it's not just Pilates that we offer. We offer intense cardio classes like piloxing, booty bar, which is cardio and strengthening, and what we're most proud of is our circuit class. We call it Circuit 7. It was designed by Liz, incorporating the most diverse and important properties of a complete workout. It's the reformer, it's cardio, intense bursts of cardio. It's TRX on the suspension bands. She incorporates the bar. She works everything, and it's a game changer.
This segment brought to you by our friends at Wayne Stabler Companies. Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. Last week I sat down with one of Louisiana's greatest writers, Ernest Gaines. We talked about his childhood, his greatest influences, and of course his books. Well, there was so much ground to cover that one show wasn't nearly enough. So this morning we head to sacred ground, a place where lives have been lost, lived, and buried since the days of slavery. Here in the middle of vast sugarcane fields lie the slaves, then sharecroppers, who worked this land for more than 150 years, often working themselves to death. It's the land on which Ernest Gaines was born and raised. Those buried here comprise the fabric of his characters, characters who would weave stories of a time and place few ever knew. So much history will forever be saved in the pages of a great Ernest Gaines book. But he and his wife are also working to preserve history in other ways, like this graveyard, where some of his family is buried. But not just family, it's a lot of the community, a lot of the people that used to live here along in the quarters. And he's also preserving the church he grew up in, which also served as the schoolhouse. This is all that's left of the quarters now. Diane and Ernest feared the same fate for the graveyard.
These were uncovered since we've been cutting the grass and digging around. You couldn't see any of that.
So you didn't even cover them?
No, we didn't know it was there.
In the 90s, the heirs of River Lake Plantation transferred ownership of this 1-acre graveyard to a nonprofit cemetery corporation the Gaines oversee. Now they see to it that it's preserved, honored, and loved, befitting those buried here.
My aunt who raised me was crippled, crawled over the floor all her life. She's buried back here in the cemetery. I don't know exactly the exact place. I know it's within an area about from here to the room here. Well, that's where we are. But the exact place, no, I do not know. But it was she who raised me and my siblings, and so that's what had kept my soul here, this place.
He wants his body placed here too.
That's where Ernest and I intend to be buried, somewhere over in that area.
But how many others are buried here is a mystery.
But then we don't know how many others are buried there, who were buried in wooden coffins or something, and who may have had wooden headstones, all of which has gone away, deteriorated.
Historians agree slaves were commonly buried in pine boxes on their owner's plantation, but records were seldom kept. Slaves are almost always buried east to west, with their head to the west. One freed slave reportedly explained that the dead shouldn't have to turn around when the archangel blows his trumpet in the eastern sunrise on Judgment Day. The average life expectancy of a Southern slave from birth was just 21 or 22 years old. Half that of whites. And there could be people buried here too, probably.
Yes.
And it matters that it matters to us that when people live and then die, that they not just be tossed away, they not just be forgotten, plowed under. No,
They also didn't want to see this church forgotten. Ernest's grandfather helped build it nearly 85 years ago. It was also used as the school here on the plantation. Ernest spent his first 6 years of school in this very room. It was referenced in many of his books. Through the years, it was vandalized, so when the Gaines bought 6 acres of the plantation's property, they wanted the church too.
And the church was falling apart. We began to think that we needed to move it at the same time we were building the house because it just seemed to make sense.
As a boy, Ernest rang this very bell for funerals. Now it's at his back door.
Whenever I'd go back there, I can just sit on one of the benches and think about those days as a little church member as well as a child in class.
Life has come full circle. He owns property laws just 50 years ago wouldn't have allowed. He's written more books than his family ever owned growing up. 4 of his 9 books have been made into movies. He's been awarded honors at the White House by 2 presidents, lauded by Oprah Winfrey, and declared a genius by the MacArthur Foundation. Yet, he's refreshingly humble for a man of his stature, incredibly generous with his time and affection, but surprisingly hard on himself. What do you want people to remember about you?
I should have done more. I should have worked harder. I should have done better. I've done some things, and a lot of people think I've done a lot for us, but I don't feel that I've done as much as I could have done.
You're awfully hard on yourself. Where does that come from?
One has to be hard on himself if you're going to work, do any kind of work, I guess. I know, I mean, I have to be hard on myself. I think about my aunt who never complained and had to crawl over the floor all these years and she never complained. So why should I have such an easy life? You know?
But life is never real easy for those who dream. He dreamed of being a writer, who then worked hard and taught himself to write like a dream. Why are we our own worst critic? Why can we be so accomplished and yet beat ourselves up incessantly? Dr. Nick joins us this morning to answer that question.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Whitney.
You know what struck me is I was interviewing Ernest Gaines and I said, what do you want people to remember you by? And he just said all of his shortcomings. I should have written more. I should have worked harder. And I was struck by that. I'm like, you're one of Louisiana's greatest writers ever. I mean, he broke down a lot of the barriers between races with his pen, and yet he's not enough.
And it was genuine. I mean, his response was genuine. One of the things that struck me was just the way he heard it. How clearer could you have been? What would you like to be remembered for? And then he went into all of my regrets. I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. And I want to be very careful, you know, to not sit here and critique one of the greatest writers of the South. But
so
I do think it raises what I have often wondered about, because there are, you know, obviously many factors that go into this, but I really constantly am asking myself about this theology of perfection, that somehow there is within us. You know, I don't know, those who would accept the notion of original sin, that somehow there's a propensity in us to not be enough, to not feel like we've done enough, a propensity for us to say, I'm not done yet, or when is it done? And it's that drive. It's really almost like a divine problem. We want to be God instead of accepting our human limitations. And when we accept,
because there is no perfection in this world.
There is no perfection in this world, and which is why in the Great Serenity Prayer we always ask for reasonable happiness in this world. Reasonable. And reasonable happiness is really we do the best we can given the circumstances. One of the things that struck me was that you notice he's in his 80s.
Right.
Okay, so he's answering the question from his 80s and from his accomplishments, okay? He's not really looking back and seeing what he was capable of doing when he was 20 or 15 or 10. Really, the circumstances are very different.
Okay.
The way I behave and choose to act today, I wasn't capable of that when I was 15, 20, 30. We grow. Our best changes.
And as we get older, we do slow down. I've noticed myself slowing down. I'm sure you've noticed yourself slowing down. And sometimes maybe that's hard to find peace with.
That's a very good insight. I did wonder, again, if he was talking from the fact that he was not able to move around as much. He was not independent. I saw it in my father. You know, the many losses that we go through life. It does have kind of that, was he really regretting what he didn't do, or is he just kind of grieving at what he can no longer do? What really struck me was, I wish I had written better.
I know.
I mean, how
much more brilliant can one be?
And yet, Whitney, I do think that we have to respect his ability to critique himself constantly and ongoingly. Again, we talked about critique before. It's just that there was, and again, I want to be very careful. There seemed to be a sadness, which is why I think it was probably more grief, more grief. But I do want to say that, you know, what we'll ask questions very often. Do you have any regrets? Absolutely not. I have regrets. Do you have regrets?
Sure.
I have regrets. You know that great song, My Way? He says, regrets, I've had a few.
Right.
But then again, too few to mention. See, there's someone who was able to look at his accomplishments objectively instead of just what he didn't get done or his failures.
What is it in us, Nikki, and maybe it's what you were referring to earlier, that we have that drive, that we have that, I've got to be more, I've got to be better, I've got to be 110%. And is it a good thing? I mean, can it be a good thing?
You know, I laughingly look at you as my model because you think you can do 110%, and sometimes you do. But I also think, again, it's partly driven by human nature, which I do think is clouded by this constant ongoing surge to it's not, I'm not there. But I also think it's clouded by our childhood, by our development. That somehow we live in an environment, we're in relation with the world and family that says, oh, you can do better. I certainly got it. I think most of our audience probably got it. You can do better than that. Sure. That's good, but you can do better than that.
Sure.
Huh? It's enough, but is it really enough? Which is why I always say at the end of the day, I've done enough.
Oh, good.
I've done enough.
And that was my next question. How can we be more gentle with ourselves?
We basically say, I've done enough. Somebody gave a quote that gave me a quote from mindfulness the other day that I just really, really liked very much. And I'll ask you, when you do the dishes, do you do the dishes in order to get them done, or do you do the dishes in order to do the dishes?
I do them to get them done.
Okay, and you see, that's a problem. Would you believe that that's,
No.
Because when you get, you're never in the moment.
I don't like washing dishes.
All right, think of something else.
Nothing about it.
But I remember my daddy saying, let's go to the early mass to get it over with. When we're always getting, that was my point. I know you don't like, when we're always trying to get it over with, we're never in the moment. There's always something else pulling.
When I'm writing a story, oftentimes I just want it to be so good.
Are you in it?
Oh, I'm in it.
Okay.
I'm probably in it too much. Because at some point I need to detach myself and go, let's get her done.
But do you see the difference, though, between in the moment and, oh, just let me get it done? When I think of all the lists of things I've got to get done, I have to really struggle to, Nikki, enjoy it. Enjoy these things you're getting done. They're not just things you want to check off.
Right.
That really helps, I believe, let us live in the moment and not so much in regret. I wish I had done that. I wish I had done that. Because again, we're going to, Whitney, just make sure we're clear about this and then we'll go. We live in relation to the world. We live in relation to the environment. We live in a relationship with circumstances. We're limited as to what we can do. His circumstances limited him. Wouldn't you agree?
Right.
I'm not making a judgment. I'm saying that that's a fact. Look at the way he was raised, and yet look at what he accomplished given the circumstances.
As a result of that, right.
This is what is astounding to me. So again, you and I are able to, I hope, encourage him to see it differently.
Right, and everyone else in our path.
And everyone else in our path who wants to always say, I haven't gotten done. I mean, I spend lots of my time saying, would you tell me what you did good this week, or what happened great for you, or what were the wonderful things that happened in preparation? And it's like, oh, I forgot about those.
Right, right. Well, thanks, Nikki.
Great to be with you,
It's part of the
Whitney.
human condition.
Human condition, yes.
Yeah.
And how great it is to be human.
That's right. But
Bye,
be gentle
everybody.
with yourself this
Be
week.
gentle, yes. And remember, somebody come do her dishes.
Much more coming up with Weekends with Whitney right after this.
Give the gift of fine dining. Wayne Stabler Companies is offering 1 card for 4. Le Creole, The Little Village, Stab Steak and Seafood. 4 sizzling restaurants, 1 card.
Hi, I'm Robert Meyer, inviting you to spend some of your summer in beautiful New Roads. Hit the water of False River for fishing, swimming, boating, and more. Feast on the finest food anywhere at our award-winning restaurants. Get in some retail therapy strolling our unique stores, and take in some of our wonderful culture. Spend the day or spend the week. Whatever you do, spend some time in New Roads.
Maggio, the only way to go. Maggio Buick GMC, your satisfaction's our specialty. We really deliver on Falls River here in New Roads. Small town atmosphere, legendary service for over 60 years. Maggio, the only way to go. The only way to go, that's Maggio.
Atlas Foundation Repair, fixing your foundation problems for more than 30 years while preserving and protecting your trees. Thanks for spending part of your day here with us on Weekends with Whitney. Be sure to tune in next Sunday. We get up close and personal with the stars from the Dukes of Hazzard, DR.NICK on the joys of laughter, and a perfect summertime dish, your Sunday Sizzle with Chef Harrison Decker from the Little Village. Remember, you can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or you can head to my website, weekendswithwhitney.net, for more on this and 39 other shows. This morning, we leave you with a view of our mighty Mississippi.